If you're a wine snob or just a wine slob, listen up. This book may be for you. And at the end of this interview, you'll get a chance to win a copy. It's entitled Unquenchable, a tipsy quest. Already tipsy already. A tipsy quest for the world's best bargain wines. The author, and I like to call her wine demystifier, Natalie McLean, is in town to promote Unquenchable, and she joins me now in the studio. Good morning.
Hi, Anthony.
Nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you, too.
Now, I have to say, I like this book because it's part travel adventure and part practical advice.
Right.
At the end of each chapter, you give a list of affordable wines from the countries that you visited, each chapter broken down by country. Mm-hmm. What was your thinking as you planned this book?
Well, I kind of wanted... It started out as the search for the world's greatest wines, but that would mean expensive. So I thought all 7 of us could get together who could afford that. Well, it wouldn't be me. It'd be somebody else hosting it, and that'd be it. So I changed the concept to the world's best bargain wines because I think that is where we are, most of us. We have a budget when we're shopping for wine. And so from there, I searched for regions that are undiscovered or undervalued.
Right.
Where are these wines coming from these days? And then I tried to find the most passionate, obsessive-compulsive winemakers I could find to tell the story of those wines.
Now, you don't take yourself too seriously through the book, unlike a lot of so-called wine aficionados that I have encountered. Do the wine snobs out there despise you?
It doesn't matter. It's just after a couple glasses, I'm not even thinking of them. I don't know. It's certainly, my goal is to connect with people. And I think wine is the drink of conversation. So I couldn't care less about the differences between Hungarian and American oak and what that does to the wine and the tannic structure. I think, what's really fascinating are the people behind the bottles and their stories, because I think every bottle has a story. If you think about the most memorable wines you've ever consumed, it probably you remember who you were with, or maybe it was a first apartment, or, a dinner party somewhere, or you were traveling with your wife. That's what I wanted to get at, not long lists of tasting notes and that sort of thing.
Now, in one of the early chapters, you go down under and you visit a number of places, including the Wolf Blass Vineyard. And you met the man behind the name of the yellow, red, black, platinum labels. And I kind of liked his Aussie brand of political incorrectness. Just describe for listeners what this man, Wolf Blass, a very successful businessman, what was he like?
He was a tornado of energy. A lot of people think about Wolf Blass as just a brand name. They think he must be like Duncan Hines or Betty Crocker, but there is a real man, Wolf Blass. He's in his mid-70s. He has a tremendous amount of energy and randiness, I must say.
Yes, that comes through in your book?
It does. He has certain situations where he describes his wines as, it's a little off-color, but he's great.
It's funny, though.
Yeah, it is.
Did he keep his hands to himself?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I had a glass in my hand. It was like, you stay over there. But he's just so colorful. He's passionate, though. And that's what I was looking for. Like, he is all about making great wines at affordable prices, but he can't help himself. And he was surrounded by his very worried PR people. What is he going to say next? Because he's known for his stream of unedited thoughts about money, success, sex, business, everything. Yeah. He calls his red label Cabernet Shiraz. He calls, I call this one the leg opener. And he keeps going. It's like, okay, yeah, all right, top me up.
Yeah. Now, when you actually go through a tour like this with Wolf Blass or some of the various other people who you visited throughout the course of the book, how much wine do you actually sip when you go on a tour like this? Are we talking sipping, or is it a little more consumptive than that?
Well, I'm very thorough in my research. I have to be credible, right?
Yeah.
But, when you're tasting wines, whether you're on the road or at home, there is a lot of spitting. Expectorating is the fancy word. But that said, I'm sitting down with these winemakers, and often we're tasting their wines with food as well. So, yes, there is quite a bit of consumption, but I try to keep it coherent so that my tasting notes don't end up as just, I look at them after, what was that?
Now, apart from Australia, you've got chapters on Germany, South Africa, Italy, France, Portugal, and even some Canadian content when you visit the Niagara Peninsula. One of my favorite chapters, though, and it's about a beautiful place that very few Canadians actually visit, is Argentina.
Yes.
In the book, you say, the first time I tasted Argentine wine 12 years ago, I spat it out because it tasted like scorched prunes speared on lacquered toothpicks. Has that changed?
Yes, fortunately.
Good news.
Yeah, exactly. Argentina has really come on strong in the last 5 years, and it's one of the more popular categories in the liquor store. They produce like a fleshy, robust, full-bodied red wine called Malbec, and that is one of the tips at the end of this chapter on Argentina is look for the less fashionable brands in the less fashionable regions, and you will not pay as much.
Right.
So if you like Cabernet or Merlot, it's kind of halfway between those two. Malbec, it's terrific. Usually the wines clock in at about $10, $15, so they're a terrific bargain. And it is a beautiful area to visit as well.
Yeah, and most of the wines that you recommend in your book actually are quite reasonable. I mean, there's a few, I guess, you could say would be pricey that are over $35, but most of them are between that kind of 15 to 25 range,
at the most,
right?
yes. A lot of them are just right around the $12 to $15 range, kind of a sweet spot in the market, I think.
Okay, the book is called Unquenchable. The author is Natalie McLean. What are you doing now? You've got a whole bunch, are you doing book signings and wine tastings?
Yeah, we're
You've got a pretty hard job, don't you?
I know, someone's got to do it. My liver for the people. But we're having a wine tasting dinner at Bianca's on Sunday night.
Okay.
There are still a few tickets left, and I do mean a few.
Okay.
So if people want to call the restaurant, we're going to have multi-course, we're going to taste wines, I'm going to read from the book, that sort of thing. And I'll be out and about this weekend at some of the bookstores. And of course, if anyone is really thirsty, they can check my website at nataliemclean.com for lots more of those wines for their shopping list.
And you have an app too, right?
I do. I have a mobile app for iPhone, BlackBerry, Android. It's free, and you can find it on those app stores. Thank you very much.
So you're hanging around here for a couple of days?
Yeah.
And promoting
right.
the book. I do have a
Exactly.
trivia question. I'm going to give away a copy of this book. I was going to ask you to do it, but I decided to trump you. That's the advantage of being in the host. I can't travel around the world tasting wine, but I can at least ask the question. Here's a trivia question. In Natalie's book, when she's visiting the Niagara region, at the end of that book, she recommends 2 wines. And these are wines that have the names of famous athletes on them. There are 2 of them that I have in mind that are listed there. If you can name one of them, you'll get the copy of the book. The studio number, 722-7111, 722-7111, or toll free, 1-800-563-8255. Natalie, pleasure to meet you.
You too, Anthony. Cheers.
That's Natalie McLean, the author of Unquenchable, A Tipsy Quest for the World's Bargain Wines. It's published by Doubleday.